is a special edition of World News with David MUIR. Tragedy at the elementary school.
Good evening on this Sunday night from Newtown, Connecticut, and we are here tonight in front of the Newtown High School where an entire community is coming together. The families of the victims, the survivors too, and they are gathering here tonight to hear from President Obama, who is on his way to the school right now, tonight in his role as comforter-in-chief, as a father himself, helping to heal a nation in mourning. And this evening, a new image of the gunman, Adam Lanza, smiling in his 6th grade yearbook picture years before he would take the lives of the 12 little girls here, the 8 little boys, the 6 women who taught and guided them. Our entire ABC News team is on the ground here tonight, and we begin with the portraits of the lives lost, the lives that will be remembered, right inside this high school behind me tonight. On this Sunday, prayers from an entire nation for this small New England community where winding roads and homes wrapped in wreaths lead the way to a town overcome with grief. God bless Sandy Hook, and the simplest of messages, give your loved ones a hug. Outside church, parents crying in each other's arms, police officers arriving, their patrol cars filled with teddy bears, the officers themselves breaking down in front of a growing vigil. And this evening, a song from one of the little girls who did not survive. Anna Marquez Green was just 6. Her father, a jazz musician, sitting here beside her brother.
1, 2, 3, ready, and go. Come now, Almighty King, help us thy name to sing.
Her brother was also in that school. He survived, here, practicing a song for their parents. In the end, flashing her smile. We're also learning more this evening about Emily Parker, who was 6. She would often carry with her markers and crayons to draw pictures for people who she thought were sad. This community so moved by her father, who bravely described his little girl, and Emily's father offered a message for the gunman's family too.
It's a horrific tragedy, and we want everybody to know that our hearts and our prayers go out to them. This includes the family of the shooter. I can't imagine how hard this experience must be for you. And I want you to know that our family and our love and our support goes out to you as well.
He spoke of the parents of the other 19 children, Olivia Engel. Jessie Lewis was learning to ride horseback, Catherine Hubbard and her beautiful red hair, Grace McDonald, whose grandmother said Grace loved playing dress-up, and the principal, Dawn Hochsprung, who we told you last night is believed to have turned on the PA during the chaos to send a warning to other teachers. Now it's believed she headed straight toward the gunman, toward the sound of gunfire, to save the students. School psychologist Mary Sherlock right there with her. The teacher's aides, Anne-Marie Murphy and Rachel Davino, and teacher Lauren Rousseau, whose father said she died with her little kids. Victoria Soto, whose family says when her body was found, it was clear she was trying to shield her 1st grade students. And tonight, for the parents with children who did survive, the mothers and fathers in town holding their hands, hugging them, a different kind of pain. Marianne Brown with 3 children of her own.
I feel selfish for being thankful that I didn't lose any children. I drive by the kids waiting for the school buses, and I don't know who's going to be waiting.
And in one of the classrooms that Adam Lanza visited with his deadly arsenal, a lone survivor, one little girl, is alive tonight thanks to her remarkable instincts. Good Morning America's Lara Spencer with the family's pastor and the story of this extraordinary little girl.
You have one parishioner who was right there, a little girl, a first grader.
She was the first student who ran out of the Sandy Hook school, 6.5 years old. She ran out of the school building covered in blood from head to toe. And the first words she said to her mom when she got outside was, "Mommy, I'm okay, but all of my friends are dead." Of those who were left in the classroom, of first graders, she was the lone survivor. She saw someone who she felt was angry and somebody who she felt was very mad. She has wisdom beyond her years. The mom told me, and I thought this was very insightful, that she was suffering from what she called survivor's guilt because so many of her friends no longer have their children, but she has hers.
This evening, there are new and chilling details about the gunman's path of violence through Sandy Hook Elementary School. And when it was all over, the little eyes authorities found staring back at them. They've been hiding, waiting to be rescued. Here's ABC's Dan Harris tonight.
After Adam Lanza shot his way through the glass near the front entrance of the school on Friday at around 9:40 a.m., he had choices. Lanza could have gone to the right, to the cafeteria, where, according to the Hartford Courant newspaper, students were rehearsing a play, straight ahead to the principal's office, or left toward the first grade classrooms. He went left, and that's when he encountered the principal and a school psychologist who, as we know, local officials say died trying to stop Lanza. In the first classroom Lanza entered, he shot and killed Lauren Rousseau, a substitute teacher, and 15 first graders, all but one of the students. Then he went to the classroom of teacher Victoria Soto, who the paper says was hiding her students. Soto tried to convince Lanza the kids were actually on the other side of the building, but when a group of students suddenly tried to get away, Lanza shot them, Soto, and a special ed teacher. It was only after police arrived that they found other students. The paper says they were hidden in a closet. At around 9:50, about 10 minutes after it began, when Lanza heard the wailing sirens approaching and killed himself with one bullet to the head. Also today, school officials announced that Sandy Hook Elementary students will, in a matter of days, start attending classes at an unused school in a neighboring town. After that, though, they face a wrenching decision. Do they ever reopen Sandy Hook Elementary? David?
And finally tonight here, a list unlike anything we have ever read before. Every name on this list, every person lost will be remembered inside this high school tonight as President Obama arrives here to try to help heal the pain. And so here tonight, the names. And that is world news for this Sunday night. All this week, a national conversation right here on ABC News about guns, about mental illness, about this nation. Can we do something together? Tragedy at Sandy Hook, the search for solutions, all this week, right here on ABC News.
This is an ABC News special report. Tragedy at Sandy Hook.
And a good evening to all of you. I want to go to David MUIR. He is outside the high school right now in rainy, somber Newtown. David?
Really appropriate, in fact, Diane. The atmosphere out here, it's a rainy, cold night here in a town that needed the president to come in his role as comforter-in-chief, as a father himself. I can tell you that he met with the families of the victims here before going to that auditorium. The high school is right here behind me, and that auditorium is full tonight. Before the president walked in, there was applause in that room, and when we saw the images, we realized it was the first responders. The community members were thanking for all of their work in the first 24 to 48 hours afterwards, as we know. And I can tell you from being here all weekend long that there are really two kinds of pain being felt here in this community. First, the families, the parents of those 20 children, the mothers and fathers whose children did not come home from school out of that elementary school that day, and their loss. And then There's the pain of the community at large, and so many mothers and fathers that I've talked to say they feel a guilt because they're able to hold their child's hand, they're able to hug their children. One woman said to me, you know, I drive to work every morning and see those little faces on my way to work, and I'm simply not sure at the end of the driveways which faces I won't see when school begins here. It's been a very painful couple of days here, and they are waiting to hear from this president. Diane, George.
All right, David.
When you look back, there are often warning signs along the way, and nobody's saying, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But we have to, as a nation, look for these warning signs.
Well, they're warning signs, David, that are only clear in hindsight, of course. And when you look again at the profile of an acute psychotic break, because that's what this is, when you talk about mental illness, we're talking here, by definition, of a situation or a state known as acute psychosis, which means there is an impairment of reality and judgment. When you look at people who suffer acute psychosis, typically you're talking about people who may have paranoid schizophrenia, who may have an extreme or manic form of bipolar disorder, and possibly, as we just heard, a history of either psychological or physical trauma or abuse in the past. As to whether or not those warning signs, as we're going to be talking so much about in the upcoming days, have been apparent, again, maybe in hindsight, yes. But looking forward, a lot of people can have their moments where they behave erratically. It's only when you put those as a sum total and then make a whole timeline over a course of someone's life, then do you start to connect the pieces. In times, yes, there can be glaring warning signs. People who withdraw from their job, withdraw from their family, who have a history of abusing animals, who have a history of violence or violent thoughts or hearing voices. But sometimes those things are not apparent.
And so many of these issues came up in the Aurora, Colorado shooting, the Batman movie, of course, and we then saw the suspect in court with the hair, that sort of fire engine red, orange, and there were signs in that case, too, as that continues to unfold.
Right, and it's important for people to understand when you talk about this condition of acute psychosis that a crime, a heinous act like this can be premeditated and can be methodically executed in someone who is acutely psychotic. That's where the mental illness comes in.
We'll be talking about that in the days to come, and of course there's always that debate about giving a suspect in any of these cases any more attention than they deserve, but we obviously do it to try to prevent it from happening again. I want to turn to your teammate, Dr. Rich Besser, who's at the scene now, and the most important people to focus on tonight, of course, and this afternoon and into the weekend are those children who were shuttled out of that school today, and what to say to them. And Rich, you're a dad too, so the question for you tonight is, what will you say to your own children?
That's a tough one, David, and everyone knows their own child best. So you really want to deal with them based on their age and their own personality. Very young children who are in elementary school or younger, if it's possible to shield them from this so they don't even know about it, that's the best approach. If they're a little older than that, if they're elementary school up to middle school, you want them to be able to talk to you about what they're feeling. You want to be able to talk to them in clear language about what you're feeling. But overall, you want to give them that sense that they are safe, that this was a bad man who did this. This was someone who wasn't well, and he's not around anymore. The police did their job. That will give them that feeling of security. Hugs, physical contact can be very, very important to communicating that sense of well-being. When you're looking at older kids, I have teenagers. My kids, they want to talk about this. Why did this happen? How could it have been prevented? What can they do in their lives right now to take charge to make sure that these things don't keep happening so often? And so understanding your child, letting them talk, letting them know that you're feeling bad about this, that you're feeling sad, that you're angry. Those things are all very important to do during this phase.
Rich, thanks so much. That is the team there in Connecticut. Lieutenant Paul Vance of the Connecticut State Police. They're going to brief again in another hour from now, as is often the case after these tragedies. They now have the tough task of coming before the camera every so often. What we learned in that briefing just moments ago was that all of the parents have now been contacted, all have been informed. 20 children died today, 18 inside that school, including that kindergarten teacher and many of the children in her classroom. There were 6 adults, and there's another adult at a separate location in Newtown, Connecticut, and we'll have much more on that as the evening progresses. We'll have continuing coverage on this. I'm David MUIR. I thank you for being with us all afternoon, and as we leave you with the images of this very trying afternoon in America, we must remember there are 20 sets of parents out there whose little children did not come home today. We'll see you shortly on World News.